Alright, get comfy everybody, because we got a lot to unpack with this one. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to yet another brand new movie review, and as always, I thank you all so much for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy your stay, because this is the next installment in the Marvel Studios playlist, guys, and yeah, here we are. We're in the home stretch. And yeah, guys, here we are in the home stretch, looking at all 23 movies, all in the build-up to Phase 4, and of course, this time around, Avengers Endgame. It really does all come down to this one, doesn't it? This was once again directed by the very capable Russo brothers, and it literally stars everybody. No, I'm serious, everybody. Look at the big old list I left you down in the description box. Because it would take me, I think, an hour to list off all the big guns that Marvel pulled out for this one. And Tony Stark sends a message to Pepper Potts as his oxygen supply starts to dwindle. Because after the events of Infinity War, he is adrift in space with no food or water. And meanwhile on Earth, the remaining Avengers, Thor, Black Widow, Captain America, and Bruce Banner, all must figure out a way to bring back their vanquished allies for an epic showdown with Thanos, who, as you're all aware by this point, wiped out 50% of all humanity, completely decimating and devastating the planet and the universe. And as per with all of this Marvel talk on the channel, just warning you now, this video will absolutely contain some humongous spoilers. So just in case anybody's been living under a rock and hasn't yet sat through Avengers Endgame, I fairly warned you. Okay, so right off the bat, guys, a lot of people will say that Infinity War is the superior film. And that's mainly because they thought the pacing was better and the storytelling was more fluent and the shocking conclusion to boot. And they'll also argue that Endgame's final product felt more like an extended cut rather than the final theatrical version, as this one clocks in at a whopping 3 hours. But just like Return of the King, Endgame, I think, earned that extra time to wrap everything up. And I gotta say, y'all, this is, hands down, one of the single most satisfying experiences I've ever had at the movie theater in my entire life. I loved it so much the first time that I went back to the movie theater twice more to actually see it all again. So for those of you doing the math, yeah, I spent more than a full workday inside of an auditorium watching Avengers Endgame. I'm not ashamed to say that whatsoever. I enjoyed every minute of it. And god damn it, I still enjoy it. Also, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. One big motivation for me going back to the theater multiple times was because I just wanted to make a tiny little dent in helping this movie become the highest grossing of all time. And they succeeded! Avengers Endgame truly has everything you could ever want out of a Marvel film. It's got the humor, it's got the amazing character connections, it's got the drama, it's got the emotion for sure, as well as a perfect third act that is masterpiece level filmmaking. Definitely as worthy as Captain America wielding Thor's hammer, which might I add, huge pop for that when I saw this in the theater the first time. And this was of course a gimmick that was paid off from Avengers Age of Ultron when everybody tried lifting up Thor's hammer at the party, and Thor said only someone worthy can lift this hammer. And Cap got ever so close. I mean, bravo to the Russo brothers, bravo to this entire creative team, and bravo to this cast, because they all provided me with my favorite MCU projects to date. You heard me. Now, the story of this movie is obviously dense, and I think there was a lot they did completely right with these characters. Most of which, for those of you keeping score at home, were part of that original Avengers team being given one last hurrah together. And the movie, of course, starts off with a bang. As the Avengers are all mourning what happened to their fallen comrades, they then find out where Thanos is, and cap with the line of the century. Let's go get that son of a bitch. And then you see a weakened Shrek Thanos farming in his swamp. Man, I would have passed out if Thanos asked them what are they doing in his swamp. And then the Avengers just come in and Thor decapitates him. Yeah, first time I was watching this movie, in the back of my head, I was like, well, that was easy. But it was then that I realized that we weren't even a half hour deep. And then we get a big giant time jump 5 years later. Needless to say, my theater was shook. But obviously there's a slow burn here until we get Ant-Man re-emerging from the quantum realm after he was abandoned there in the mid-credits of his sequel. And then this is where the movie gets freaking wild. Time travel! Why, thank you, Mr. Banner Hulk Man. You hit the nail right on the head, didn't you? But all of this time travel stuff I absolutely loved, even though they were directly referencing Back to the Future. I mean, you knew all of this stuff was gonna happen. They had to provide some way to bring every one of these fallen comrades back. Otherwise, that Spider-Man sequel they were promoting around the same time wouldn't even exist. Which, by the way, interesting publicity techniques there, Marvel. But the way this was all executed, the time travel stuff, this all brings a lot of fun moments, and it provides a beautiful tribute to all of the previous MCU films we'd gotten previously. Thor and Rocket are running through Asgard during the events of the Dark World. Cap and Stark are going back to the 70s. The Battle of New York is replicated. Cap fights himself. And I gotta tell you guys, I loved every second of it, especially as someone that's a huge fan of all this time travel in movies. And I think every single one of these central characters evolved in ways that made sense. For example, you might remember, Thor in Infinity War didn't go for the head initially, and he ends up being the one who decapitates Thanos. Redemption indeed. But his guilt is actually what drives him to become the Big Lebowski, a fat, lazy drunk. Chris Hemsworth, might I add, plays that so hilariously also. You look like melted ice cream. But in a way, it's also pretty inspiring to watch it, because they're essentially saying it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. You can still be a superhero in life no matter what you look like, and you can still kick any problems you have in the butt. And I thought that was super cool. I of course mentioned him earlier, but Hulk and Banner have merged the best of both worlds, and now we get the big green guy with normal Mark Ruffalo voice. And I thought all of that stuff was super fun to look back on too. I remember that scene in the restaurant the first time I watched it. It was so jarring. Scott Lang himself was super confused in the moment, and that right there really encapsulated how I felt in the movie theater. But eventually, you know, I got used to it, and I really dug it. We also see Steve Rogers leading support groups to help the survivors of the snap adapt to this new normal, if you will. This is truly showing another definition of what it means to be Captain America. And finally, after Tony Stark has returned home, he proves himself to be a loving husband and a loving father. Which, might I add, Morgan was freaking adorable. I got some important shit going on. Yeah, obviously, I don't have a ton of complaints about Avengers Endgame. If there's one teeny tiny nitpick I'd like to talk about with this film, it's the death of Black Widow on Vormir. You know what I'm talking about. She basically sacrifices herself so that Hawkeye can grab the Soul Stone. Now, let me just say, in a vacuum, this is a really, really effective moment. But this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In a vacuum, this ain't. And honestly, I got kind of upset the more and more I thought about this, because they were building up all of these amazing connections with Nat that could have played into future projects. But nope, off the cliff she goes, never to be seen again. Oh wait, but you know one death that does work for me and still leaves me tearing up to this day? Yeah, Tony Stark himself. He gets me, man. He still gets me. It is so beautifully handled. The sacrifice he makes snapping his fingers to wipe out Thanos and all of his goons saying the same thing that ended the first MCU project ever. That's true poetic justice. And then of course Thanos melts away Voldemort style and I was like, so long, sucker! And then Tony Stark is peacefully laid to rest and God, that panic shot, guys, at the funeral. Every single hero we've been introduced to after Stark paying their respects to him at the funeral, God, that gets me. Thank you, RDJ. This, I think, was truly the best performance of your entire career. We love you 3000. But even though Stark even says part of the journey is the end, the MCU, as we know, is far from done. We see Thor hand over the reins of New Asgard to Valkyrie, and he hops on board the Guardian's ship, which really excited me, seeing as how a lot of their scenes in Infinity War were among my favorites. I can't wait to see what Taika Waititi does with all those guys. And then, oh, Steve Rogers. He puts all the Infinity Stones back in the quantum realm, and after they think it's a botched return, Steve stayed there on purpose to live a full life with Peggy Carter, all signified with the sweetest final image I think you'll ever see in a superhero flick. And of course, he turns into old man Steve Rogers in the present day because of this, and he basically turns into President Biden's twin brother. But of course he does! And yeah, you know where I'm going with this. It all leads to him handing over the shield to none other than Sam Wilson himself, played by Anthony Mackie. You can tell how giddy I am about this, but alas, stay tuned for that TV Thoughts video coming very soon. So with all that in mind, this is everything I was looking for in a send-off to the first 10 years of this ongoing saga, while also looking forward to the densely populated future of the MCU. This is undisputedly my favorite project the studio has released so far, and I'm absolutely giving Avengers Endgame an A+. And that's a well-earned A+, too. This and Infinity War can't have been easy projects to pull off, but the Russo brothers did it, man. They did it! Also, just so you're completely aware, to break tradition, there is no mid- or post-credits sequence in this one. Boo. But if you stick around, I promise you, you will get a nice final treat. I mean, the whole end credits sequence really does feel like a curtain call for this original team. These are all just my opinions, of course, about Avengers Endgame. What do you guys think of it? Do you agree with me? Do you not? What is your favorite MCU project up to this point? As you guys know, I love discussing cinema and all things entertainment and making these videos for you guys. Let's continue that discussion all down in the comments. And hey, if you guys want to continue discussing these topics with me, if you guys are enjoying my videos, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button down below as hard as you possibly can. It's free, it would really help out the channel immensely if you did so. And I'll tell you what, if you also click that notification bell down below, you guys can be the first ones to know anytime a new upload hits. And be sure to hit that thumbs up, just a final reminder on your way out, especially if you enjoyed the video. That would be awesome. And as always, look out for more exciting content hitting this channel very, very soon. I've got a couple of really exciting live streams coming up this weekend. And we're also going to wrap up the MCU playlist as far as past movies go. Next up, we're looking at Spider-Man Far From Home. So you guys have got that to look forward to and much, much more. You guys are the best. And with all that being said, back talk, commence.